In fact, his strength lived up to his confidence. An expert nearby was drawn to the man's aura. However, when he discovered the identity of its bearer, he was frightened. He managed to calm himself down. "Xue Luo, it's you," said the expert to the man. He was a benevolent-looking white-robed elder. "Well, it's you, Wu Yu. So you want to fight me?" Xue Luo responded in an arrogant tone as he looked at the elder with his arms crossed in front of his chest. "No, not at all," the elder smiled and continued, "I happened to be around and followed your aura here. I'm leaving now." The elder left immediately. "Coward." Xue Luo mocked the elder. He and Wu Yu were from two different camps, but neither of them intended to fight each other. Xue Luo knew that he could not kill the elder and Wu Yu had no guts to challenge him. Xue Luo continued to move forward, and before long, he came up to a small hill. "What's this?" As he looked down, his eyes brightened. He had spotted a moving figure. Xue Luo grinned. "I can't sense his aura. He is a rival." He rushed toward the figure. That figure, Jian Wushuang, sensed an overbearing aura approaching him and stopped. He turned around and saw a burly golden-haired man charging toward him. Jian Wushuang was startled for a moment and stared at the man. "He is." In an instant, Jian Wushuang recognized the man. "He is Xue Luo. No wonder his aura is so aggressive." Jian Wushuang looked grave. Jian Wushuang felt extremely pressured at Xue Luo's arrival. Based on the file Sir Axe had given him, Xue Luo was an expert at the top of Stage 3 with a strong body and mighty power. Besides, his attack and defensive skills were excellent. His only weakness might be his slow speed. Moreover, he was ranked among the top 20 experts in inner area. The file also mentioned that Xue Luo had once fought head-to-head with an expert at heaven-defying level. Xue Luo had been overpowered by him, but he had managed to escape in one piece. In other words, Xue Luo was a monster who feared nothing in inner area. "I'm so lucky to encounter him." Jian Wushuang was excited. Xue Luo had presented himself just when Jian Wushuang wanted to find someone on whom he could test his blood puppet. Jian Wushuang waved his hand. The blood puppet appeared and swallowed a blood gem that Jian Wushuang gave him. "Show me your power as a blood puppet made by Sword Ancestor." Jian Wushuang waited with bated breath for fight to commence. After swallowing the gem, a sliver of light flashed in the puppet's eyes. Bang! The puppet turned into a streak of red flowing light and rushed toward Xue Luo. Hey! Xue Luo had been watching Jian Wushuang closely during his charge toward him. He was taken aback when the blood puppet suddenly appeared in front of him. The puppet swiftly dived at Xue Luo, clenched his right hand into a fist and threw it at Xue Luo. "You want to play hard? I'm fine with it." Xue Luo sneered. Xue Luo transformed into an ape as a giant demonic ape materialized from thin air and appeared behind him. He then made a fist and attacked. Two overwhelming forces collided. Chapter 414, The Horrifying Blood Puppet. Chapter 414. The Horrifying Blood Puppet. Bang! A booming sound resounded in the area. Explosive forces expanded in all directions. Where fists met, squeezing noises were heard, as if the space could not bear the forces. Hey! Xue Luo looked at the puppet in astonishment. He felt a slight pain in his arm. His power had always been his biggest advantage and helped him succeed in every battle. Now, in a battle of brute strength, he was hurt while the puppet was unscathed. The puppet struck two more punches which were as powerful as the first one. Xue Luo's eyes were glacial. He waved his hands and ran toward the punches. Bang! Bang! Two booming sounds echoed. Xue Luo fell backward several steps while the puppet remained standing where he was. Blood puppet overpowered him. Watching from the ground, Jian Wushuang was surprised by the result. Xue Luo is a super expert, well known for his defense. Even someone at heaven-defying level can't hurt him. However, he lost to the puppet in that battle of power. That means the puppet is more powerful. In the next moment, Jian Wushuang saw the puppet attack again. Boom! 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 The puppet rained blows on Xue Luo, like a storm that refused to let up. The blood puppet was unintelligent and attacked his enemy simply by punching and sweeping his legs. However, while his strikes lacked skill, he possessed an overwhelming power that frightened Xue Luo. With such power and incredibly fast speed, the puppet was definitely as strong as an expert at stage 3. As for the puppet's defense, it was even more impressive. When the two had collided, Xue Luo had felt pain and numbness. The puppet had been completely unaffected. The puppet did not have fighting skills but still frustrated Xue Luo with his considerable power. I'm less powerful than him. I'm slower in speed than him. I'm even much weaker in defense than him. As these thoughts ran through his head, Xue Luo lost all his will to fight. Who the hell made this puppet? How could it be so powerful? He roared in a barely suppressed voice and looked livid. He did not know that the puppet had been created by Sword Ancestor, a person who could match 3 ancestors. Such a puppet was never meant to be just an ordinary fighter. I can't go on like this. Gnashing his teeth, Xue Luo cast a sharp glance at Jian Wushuang, who stood nearby. Domineering and arrogant, he had bowed to no one in inner area. He had thought that the puppet was an ordinary one and had not taken it seriously. He had tried to dispatch it before attacking Jian Wushuang. He had not expected it to be so strong and that he would fail. Now, he had no other choice but to change his target to Jian Wushuang. Since the puppet is controlled by the boy, killing him will stop the puppet's attack. Then, his interspatial ring and the puppet will be mine. Having made up his mind, Xue Luo flashed and turned away from the puppet, heading toward Jian Wushuang. Kill him. Killing intent surged in his eyes. As soon as Xue Luo changed his target, Jian Wushuang understood his intention and smirked. Though you have a strong defense, you have no chance to kill me at your normal speed. Jian Wushuang sneered. From Jian Wushuang's body, blood river spread out and covered Xue Luo with sword realm. Repressed by the 2 techniques, Xue Luo was slowed to a snail-like pace. He could never approach Jian Wushuang at this speed. How could it be possible? I never expected that he has realm techniques. Xue Luo shot Jian Wushuang an amazed look. Just then, the puppet dived at Xue Luo again. Bastard! Xue Luo looked pale. He was already weakened by the blood river. Another fight with the puppet would exacerbate his situation. A short while later, he had sustained scratches all over his body, but he was not badly injured. He gazed at Jian Wushuang and the puppet from a distance in the void. Noticing that the puppet's breath had weakened, he realized that its store of energy from the blood gem was depleted. Boy, without your puppet, what else can you rely on to fight me? Xue Luo scowled and his eyes burned with rage. Well, do you really think that I only have 1 gem to power my puppet? Jian Wushuang smiled coldly and produced another blood gem. Xue Luo narrowed his eyes. Xue Luo, if you want to suffer some more, just try it, Jian Wushuang said coolly. Xue Luo's mouth twitched. Horror filled his eyes when their gaze fell on the puppet. He was still traumatized from being overpowered by the puppet, who was stronger than him in power, speed, and defense. Damn you. All you have is a puppet. Without it, I can kill you as easily as crushing an ant. Xue Luo raged. Jian Wushuang sneered. Even without the puppet, you won't be able to stop me if I want to escape. Xue Luo's countenance changed, and he snorted. Fine. Boy, you're lucky that I'm letting you go this time, but there won't be a second time. Xue Luo headed away in fury. Chapter 415 Winning Fame. Chapter 415 Winning Fame. Xue Luo is indeed powerful. No wonder he is called Monster. Jian Wushuang thought. As he looked back at the blood puppet, he smiled with joy. However, he was still defeated by my puppet. My puppet must be more powerful than him. 1 blood gem was adequate to simply power the blood puppet. If 10 gems were used, the puppet would reach the heights of his power. Xue Luo is an expert at the top of stage 3, but my puppet still overpowered him. That means that powering the puppet with 1 gem put it almost at heaven-defying level of the Saint Realm. How powerful would it be when powered by 2 or more gems? By 10 gems? Jian Wushuang was full of anticipation as he thought to himself, the puppet is indeed one of Sword Ancestor's creations. It requires too many blood gems. During the fight with Xue Luo, the energy supplied by one blood gem to the puppet had been depleted in less than 10 minutes. Exchanging one blood gem from the treasure vault required 1,000 battle achievement points. A Stage 3 expert would need to be defeated to gain that number of points. The puppet is powerful, but I should only use it in dire situations. I don't have that many blood gems, so I can't use the puppet indiscriminately. With the puppet, Jian Wushuang felt more confident about his future. If I unleash all my power, I should be at the high level of Stage 3. This level is ordinary for inner area, but with realm techniques like Road to the Underworld and Tenfold Realm, I will survive even if I encounter an expert at peak of Stage 3. Even if I can't, Blood Puppet will help me. Let's begin our adventure. Jian Wushuang continued his journey in inner area, a place filled with numerous experts. Some of them had lived for hundreds of years or longer. They had brilliant martial techniques and skills to protect themselves. Jian Wushuang's skills should be considered at the top level among theirs. Half a year had elapsed since Jian Wushuang first entered the inner area. A small yellow stone fort stood among bare mountains. The owner had to be a very strong expert who was confident about his power, for he had dared to build his fort in inner area, a battlefield known for its slaughter and violence. This man was called the Heavenstone Castle Lord. An expert at the top of Stage 3, he was more notorious than Xue Luo for his cruelty. In the entire area, only the 6 experts at heaven-defying level could possibly overpower him. A man in green with a saber strapped on his back approached slowly and entered the fort. He sat down at a stone table and started to drink alone with a gloomy expression. "Third brother, what's wrong with you?" A skinny elder with a goatee walked up to him. This elder was the famous Heavenstone Castle Lord. Heavenstone Castle Lord had 2 buddies who were as close to him as brothers. Both were at Stage 3 and had adventured with him in inner area. Unfortunately, one of them was killed many years ago. Now, the Lord only had his third brother. "Nothing's wrong. It's just that I'm frustrated from my fight with an expert from a rival camp that happened on my way back," said the third brother after a sip of his wine. "Not many from Marquis Piaoshua's camp can frustrate you as you're now at the top of Stage 3. So, who the hell did you meet?" "The crazy Kandao, Tianyi, or the devil Qing Ling." The Lord mentioned 3 people who were well known for their powers and were as strong as him. "None of them. It was a young man who used a sword. I guess he is that swordsman, who has gained a lot of notice recently," the third brother answered with a frown. "Swordsman?" The Lord was slightly surprised. "I've heard of him, a man with awakened double sword souls and a promising future. In the past 6 months, he won fame in inner area and has drawn attention from many. But, he is no match for you, isn't it?" "Yes, he isn't. His power is weak. Fighting head-on, I can easily defeat him and even kill him. However, he has a weird realm technique, which suppressed my powers," the third brother said helplessly. "He relied on his realm and challenged me. I had to let him go for he has a strong body and many trump cards." "I see," the Lord smiled and said, "I'm not surprised that you were repressed by his realm. After all, it's a powerful technique. Even I envy him. Moreover, he has Sword Soul to help him. If he achieves new heights in origin, I guess it'll be hard for me to beat him as well. I know. I'm just a little depressed." The third brother curled his lips. As for the man they were talking about, Jian Wushuang, he hadn't returned to his camp during his half-year-long adventure. He had encountered and fought many opponents, exposing his realm technique and double sword souls to the experts in inner area. For this reason, he had left a deep impression on many people and had won some fame. His technique had caused much trouble to his opponents and was regarded as a unique skill. Chapter 416 Origin Mark. Chapter 416 Origin Mark. Jian Wushuang sat quietly in a cave in the inner area. The cave was rarely visited and was surrounded by vast amounts of Slaughter Origin. Slaughter Origin rushed into the armlet on his left arm and condensed gradually into a black mark. This black mark had the faint appearance of a flame, but it did not look like a regular one. Origin Mark. When the black mark condensed, Jian Wushuang opened his eyes with pleasant surprise. Origin mark would condense only when his comprehension of this origin had reached an extremely high level. When Jian Wushuang had entered inner area half a year ago, he had been a step away from condensing origin mark. As he battled stage 3 experts during the past half year, he had made great progress in all aspects, including his sword principle and origin comprehension. This had finally culminated in his achievement of condensing his first origin mark. Origin mark. Jian Wushuang stared at the origin mark on his arm. Using his will, he directed the origin mark's power into his hand. He waved his hand and a terrible blast swept the cave with a loud roar. What immense power! Jian Wushuang was ecstatic. Origin mark had greatly improved his strength. Jian Wushuang estimated that his strength had trebled. When the origin mark was condensed, my overall strength increased by nearly 3 times. My battle strength now should be equal to that of an expert at the peak of stage 3, Jian Wushuang whispered. Before this moment, he had reached the high level of stage 3 by virtue of double first-grade sword soul, blood river realm, physical strength, and heavenly creation skill. While it was just a single slaughter origin mark, it had strengthened his overall power by 3 times and elevated him to the peak of stage 3. Experts in the inner area have special means or abilities to stay alive, even if their strength is weak. Before I condensed the origin mark, it was already difficult to kill me because I had the assistance of the realm. Now, Jian Wushuang curled his lips into a playful smile. Experts who dared to adventure in the inner area were generally confident of their own strength or their ability to survive. During his half-year in the inner area, he had fought many experts from the opposite camp. He had only managed to kill 2 of them, who were ordinary stage 3 experts. While they had skills that would have saved their lives, they had been restrained by his realm and had failed to escape. It had taken a long time for him to kill them. Only 2 experts. He had also suffered several crises. The most dangerous one was a battle with an expert at the peak of stage 3. That man was weaker than Xue Luo, but he was well-rounded with no obvious weaknesses. Under Blood River Realm's suppression, he had still been faster than Jian Wushuang. At the beginning of the fight, Jian Wushuang had already sustained serious wounds and had been thoroughly outclassed. Thanks to his blood puppet, he had narrowly resolved the crisis. Now, he was at the peak of stage 3 because of the power of origin energy. With the assistance of his realm, he would be threatened by few experts. In the vast void, a burly purple-haired man, clothed in a black shirt with 2 long spears on his back, slowly marched forward. He cast his eyes warily at the surroundings. The 2 long spears could be connected together. Suddenly, he saw someone rush toward him. The purple-haired man recognized the man. Swordsman. In the past half-year, Jian Wushuang had earned a reputation in the inner area. He had fought the purple-haired man before. At that time, the purple-haired man had an absolute advantage, but he had failed to kill Jian Wushuang as the latter had escaped with the help of his realm. Dongming, Jian Wushuang stood in front of the purple-haired man and looked at him. What? I taught you a lesson last time. Do you want me to beat you again? Dongming, the purple-haired man, sneered at Jian Wushuang. I was indeed not strong enough the last time. I've improved my strength since then, so I'll test it on you, Jian Wushuang laughed. Test it on me? Dongming snorted. An intense and horrifying aura began to surge from his body. Ha, let's start, Jian Wushuang laughed and released his Blood River realm. This realm again. Dongming's face darkened. He had failed to kill Jian Wushuang the last time because of this realm. Damn, if it weren't for this realm, you would just be a bug in the inner area. You would have been killed countless times, Dongming growled. Really? Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. A freezing sword light penetrated the void and roared toward Dongming. 2 tall sword soul phantoms stood behind Jian Wushuang. They also brandished long swords with torrential sword light. In this slash, Jian Wushuang released his full power of sword soul and physical strength. He also brought his origin mark to its extreme. Dongming did not take Jian Wushuang seriously at first. After all, he had fought Jian Wushuang a few months ago and had outclassed the latter. He did not expect Jian Wushuang to improve much during such a short period. Dong Ming realized his mistake in underestimating Jian Wushuang when the sword light appeared. This. Eyes widened in surprise, Dong Ming swung the long spear in his hand and stabbed forward. The movement was similar to a poisonous snake striking out of a hole. Clang! A deep crash sounded. What? Dong Ming's face darkened. His long spear point had been twisted sideways by the sword light. The sword light continued to sweep toward him with great momentum. Dong Ming immediately pulled his long spear back and swung it. He narrowly dodged the sword light, but he was blown backward by its power. Peak of Stage 3? Dong Ming was stunned. Dong Ming was close to the peak of Stage 3, but he was swept away by Jian Wushuang's slash. It seemed that Jian Wushuang was much stronger than him in battle strength and had truly reached the peak of Stage 3. Chapter 417, Triple Shift. Chapter 417, Triple Shift. How could it be possible? How could he have made such rapid progress in such a short period of time? Dong Ming was shocked. He clearly remembered that he had been able to overpower Jian Wushuang a few months ago, though the latter had the help of his realm. How had Jian Wushuang reached the peak of Stage 3 so quickly? How could he become even stronger than me? Dong Ming was unaware that Jian Wushuang had not yet condensed the origin mark in their last exchange. With the origin mark, Jian Wushuang's battle strength had increased several times and now exceeded his. I'm in big trouble. Having realized the full extent of Jian Wushuang's battle strength, Dong Ming's face fell. It had only been a minor inconvenience for him to be trapped in the realm when he was stronger than Jian Wushuang. But now that Jian Wushuang's power had grown, the realm became a nightmare. Jian Wushuang rushed forward and brandished his sword to attack Dong Ming. The latter barely managed to parry the strike. Run, I have to run quickly. With a trace of madness in his eyes, Dong Ming looked desperately for an opportunity to flee. Dong Ming, are you expecting to escape from my realm? You must be kidding, Jian Wushuang sneered. Damn! Dong Ming swore under his breath. Dong Ming was close to the top of Stage 3 in terms of battle strength and had excellent power, speed, and defensive ability. He would not be afraid to challenge some experts at the peak of Stage 3, who were even stronger than Jian Wushuang. After all, he would still be able to escape if he failed. But Jian Wushuang, his realm was too strong and too unpredictable. Experts in the inner area had already made judgments on Jian Wushuang's realm. Someone much stronger than Jian Wushuang could outclass or compete with him even when trapped in his realm. Otherwise he would need special skills to survive. For example, Wind Demon could easily escape from Jian Wushuang's realm with his extraordinary speed. These were the two types of people who could calmly face Jian Wushuang's realm. Others were doomed to die in Jian Wushuang's hands. Dong Ming was far weaker than Jian Wushuang and he had no special abilities. His death loomed large before him. No, no. Dong Ming's face was distorted with fury and panic. His continual attempts to flee were thwarted by Jian Wushuang. Dong Ming grew desperate. He could not escape. He was completely crushed by Jian Wushuang. As the attacks continued to rain on him, he grew too exhausted to resist. The only thing waiting for him was death. I won't accept it. Dong Ming roared in anger and gathered the last of his energy and to make his final struggle. Won't accept it. You were quite arrogant the last time you met me, Jian Wushuang sneered. He vaguely remembered that Dong Ming had mocked him a few months ago. Furthermore, Dong Ming was from the rival camp. Jian Wushuang would not show him mercy. Finally, Dong Ming's resistance broke down. Jian Wushuang's sword pierced his chest in a killing blow. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and retrieved Dong Ming's interspatial ring. He glanced at the treasures in it and broke out into a smile. Great, he has lots of treasures, even more than the 2 Stage 3 experts I killed earlier. There are even 2 blood gems. Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up with pleasant surprise. In the interspatial ring, there were 2 blood gems and plenty of treasures and raw gems. More importantly, the ring contained Dong Ming's ID token. Another 1,000 battle achievements. Now I have 4,000 battle achievements. Jian Wushuang held Dong Ming's ID token in his hand and curled his lips. Before entering the inner area, he had adventured in the outer area with Sir Axe, Lei Dao, and the others, where he had killed a 10-member team on his own. Though they had just been Stage 2 experts and were worth only 100 battle achievements each, he had obtained 1,000 battle achievements in that fight. During the half a year in the inner area, he had fought many times and killed 2 Stage 3 experts using his realm technique. That earned him 2,000 battle achievements. By killing Dong Ming, he now owned 4,000 battle achievements. There was a manual in the treasure vault list that I couldn't afford. But now it seems that I've earned enough battle achievements to redeem it. Jian Wushuang laughed and left the inner area, heading for the campsite of Drifting Blood Marquis. He passed through the inner area and outer area in a hurry. His journey was uneventful and he did not encounter any challenges. A few days later, he arrived at the campsite of the Drifting Blood Marquis. It was bustling with activity, as it always did. Jian Wushuang entered the campsite treasure vault and glanced casually at the grey-clothed elder sitting there. Jian Wushuang perused the treasure list. A few moments later, he found the manual he sought. Triple Shift, a first-grade manual. Although first-grade manuals were rare and precious in the vast Divine Land, there were a few of them in Drifting Blood Marquis's treasure vault. However, most of them were incomplete. The only complete one was Triple Shift. Triple Shift was a body technique manual. It was much stronger than Wrath of Gale and Thunderbolt, which Jian Wushuang had cultivated. My biggest advantage is the Blood River realm superimposed by Road to the Underworld and Tenfold realm. Once the realm is released, I can choose to fight or escape a battle. However, experts who have excellent speed can easily escape from my realm, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. His Blood River realm was not invincible either. For example, Wind Demon, the first expert he had met in the inner area, had managed to flee from his Blood River realm. This was because he had been too quick, making it impossible for Jian Wushuang to kill him. At that time, Jian Wushuang had been impressed and envied Wind Demon's speed. If he wanted to elevate the use of his realm, he needed to move faster. Triple Shift would help him meet this requirement. Triple Shift had 3 levels, and its first level would enable him to travel 100 miles in a single breath. Being able to perform the astonishing feat of traveling 100 miles in a breath by studying this manual demonstrated its great worth. It was not easy to acquire a first-grade manual such as this. It would cost him 4,000 battle achievements. Chapter 418, The Bone King's Invitation. Chapter 418, The Bone King's Invitation. I want to exchange my points for the first manual of Triple Shift, Jian Wushuang said. The grey-clothed elder looked at Jian Wushuang and said, 4,000 battle achievements. Jian Wushuang took out a large number of enemies' tokens. The grey-clothed elder counted them and nodded. He made a record on his paper and said, wait at the campsite. In 3 days, we'll send it to you. Thanks, Jian Wushuang said before leaving. 3 days later, a man sent the first manual of Triple Shift to Jian Wushuang. He immediately started to meditate on it. Triple Shift, as a first-grade manual and an extraordinary one, was naturally enigmatic. It was different from Wrath of Gale and Thunderbolt which Jian Wushuang had once cultivated. The latter had certain origin comprehension requirements. At that time, Jian Wushuang had barely mastered it. Triple Shift did not require much of origin but demanded a strong body. Regardless of his depth of origin comprehension, an ordinary expert would not be qualified to cultivate this manual if his body failed to meet the requirements. This was the reason why Jian Wushuang valued the manual. After he became a venerable master, his biggest advantage compared with ordinary experts of the Saint Realm was his strong body. His body was as strong as a magic weapon and grew stronger the longer he stayed at this level. With the passing of time, his strength had increased by leaps and bounds. It was obvious that his body met the requirements of practicing Triple Shift. What he needed to do now was to meditate on the manual and practice it. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. Jian Wushuang stood quietly on a hill near the campsite. Suddenly, he moved. Chuu. Like a flowing light, he flashed through the void. The movement was so fast it would have escaped the notice of ordinary warriors. Jian Wushuang's residual shadow slowly dissipated. Before it completely disappeared, Jian Wushuang returned and his form solidified. He traveled back and forth within a breath. In the space of a single breath, he had traveled 10 miles away and returned. Less than a breath. It's so fast. It's worthy of a first-grade manual. Jen Wushuang's eyes glinted. It was said that the first manual of triple shift would allow one to travel 100 miles in a breath. 100 miles sounded like an exaggeration, but it was close to that. If Jen Wushuang released the wrath of gale and thunderbolt and transformed his body to lightning, it would take him at least 4 or 5 breaths to travel 10 miles and return. With triple shift, it only took him 1 breath. My speed has soared thanks to triple shift. Now I'm nearly as fast as Wind Demon. Jen Wushuang clenched his fists. Wind Demon's speed was impressive and highly regarded by all in the inner area. Jen Wushuang acknowledged that he was still a little slower than Wind Demon under ordinary circumstances. However, if he superimposed the road to the underworld and Tenfold Realm to form the Blood River Realm to suppress Wind Demon, the latter would definitely be slower than him. Jen Wushuang was sure that Wind Demon would not be able to escape in their next encounter. Jen Wushuang returned to the campsite. As he entered his tent, someone approached him. Mr. Swordsman. It was a black-robed old man, who was an ordinary expert at pinnacle of the Saint Realm level and had not entered Stage 2. What's up? Jen Wushuang glanced at the old man, a little surprised. Jen Wushuang had not been in Flaming Battlefield long and had been fighting alone. He knew some experts from the same camp but had no close friends in the inner area. Except for the experts of Iron Saber territory, he was not expecting any visitors. Mr. Swordsman, my master wants to meet you. I have come to invite you to his cave mansion, the old man said. Who is your master? Jen Wushuang asked. My master is Bone King, the old man laughed. Bone King? Jen Wushuang was curious. Flaming Battlefield was accessible only to experts. Countless top experts gathered in the inner area, including plenty of experts at the peak of Stage 3. Among them, there were some formidable beings. Those formidable beings, though also at the peak of Stage 3, could fight with experts of heaven-defying level. Each was regarded as an overlord in the inner area, and no one dared to provoke them. Average experts would flee if they met these overlords in the inner area. Xue Luo, who Jen Wushuang had once met in the inner area, was one of them. Xue Luo was much stronger than other experts at the peak of Stage 3 in terms of power and speed. Bone King was a super expert who was even stronger than Xue Luo, and he was notorious for killing. In terms of battle strength, Bone King was invincible as long as he did not encounter the 6 experts of heaven-defying level, who rarely appeared. I've never met Bone King before. Why does he want to talk to me? Jen Wushuang looked puzzled. Naturally, he would not refuse the invitation from a super expert. Where is your master now? Jen Wushuang asked. Please come with me. The black-robe old man led the way forward. The Bone King's magnificent cave mansion stood in an immense rift not far from the campsite. Jen Wushuang entered the cave mansion with the old man and soon saw Bone King. Ha ha, swordsman. A barefoot middle-aged man in a loose robe smiled as he walked toward Jen Wushuang. Bone King, Jen Wushuang greeted him. A youth with a cold expression and sword-shaped eyebrows stood behind Bone King. Shui Yang, Jen Wushuang also greeted him. The young man nodded impassively. Shui Yang was also an extraordinary expert at the peak of Stage 3, though a little weaker than Bone King. Jen Wushuang had met Shui Yang in the inner area but had not fought him as they belonged to the same camp. Chapter 419 Occupation. Chapter 419 Occupation. I heard that a new expert named Swordsman had appeared in the inner area and his realm technique was amazing. Finally, I have the chance to meet you, Bone King said kindly. Thank you, Jen Wushuang responded humbly. May I ask why you invited me here? No hurry. Several other experts will come later. I'll tell you when all of you are gathered here, said Bone King. Okay, Jen Wushuang nodded. They sat down at a round table. Swordsman, you're very famous in the inner area for your realm technique. Would you please show it to me? Bone King asked casually. I would like to see it too, Shui Yang said. Of course, Jen Wushuang nodded. He knew that Bone King wanted to test his strength. Bone King must have invited him for his realm technique. Be careful, Jian Wushuang cautioned and released his invisible sword realm. Oh! Bone King frowned slightly. That's all? Of course not, Jian Wushuang smiled. In the next moment, a blood river surged up with a roar and tumbled around him. The superposition of road to the underworld and tenfold realm produced a formidable oppressive effect. Bone King's eyes lit up as he felt the enormous power of the blood river. What a powerful realm! With it, our chances of accomplishing the task will improve by at least 20%. This realm is indeed strong, Shuiyang nodded gravely as he looked at Jian Wushuang. Not long ago, I met Wu Ming from the opposite camp in the inner area. He had been weaker than me, but he had obtained a treasure which could release a realm. A treasure? Jian Wushuang was intrigued. His realm resulted from his sword skill, a secret skill. He had never chanced upon any treasure which could create a realm. It was a ring which contained a special formation. Once he used it, a realm was released. Because of that, he was able to compete with me. However, that realm was much weaker than yours, Shuiyang said. Jian Wushuang was silent, but he continued to contemplate the new information. A ring which could release a realm and exert an influence on Shuiyang was undoubtedly powerful. Jian Wushuang's realm was powerful, but it could be improved if he could get his hands on that ring and superimpose its realm with his. Soon, other experts arrived. They sat themselves at the round table. Besides Jian Wushuang and Shuiyang, Bone King had invited 3 other experts. Among them, Jian Wushuang was a newcomer. The others had enjoyed fame for a long time and had reached the peak of stage 3. Shuiyang, Zhu Hua, you must be swordsmen. They greeted and talked to each other. Since they belonged to the same camp and were all top experts, it was natural for them to socialize with one another. Everyone, said Bone King, who sat at the head of the table. The experts quieted down and listened to him attentively. They had been invited by Bone King, but did not know his reason for doing so. I invited you to come here for a task, Bone King said in a magnificent voice. It was ordered by the high officials of Drifting Blood Marquis. The task is extraordinary and quite difficult, but it's also rewarding. If the task is completed, everyone will get at least 10,000 battle achievements, as well as other rewards. 10,000 battle achievements. Hearing that, their eyes lit up. 10,000 battle achievements was nothing to scoff at. They could only get 1,000 battle achievements by killing a Stage 3 expert. All Stage 3 experts who ventured into the inner area were confident of their battle strength. Experts who were weaker were equipped with skills that would help them survive, such as the Wind Demon with his amazing speed. Therefore, even though the experts present were at the peak of Stage 3, it was an uphill challenge for them to kill a Stage 3 expert in the inner area. The reward of 10,000 battle achievements was equal to killing 10 Stage 3 experts. This made the incentive for completing the task very attractive. A substantial reward also meant that this task would be complex. Bone King, tell us what this task is, a burly rough-looking man named Beast said impatiently. Many experts used aliases on the flaming battlefield. I'll be candid. Our task is to occupy a cave mansion controlled by the opposite camp, Bone King said in a low voice. Occupy a cave mansion? They gathered experts were surprised. On the flaming battlefield, there were 330 cave mansions, many of which were still hidden and had not been discovered, but more had fallen under the control of the 2 camps. Drifting Blood Marquis controlled 99 mansions in total. The number of cave mansions occupied by Pale Moon Marquis was not insignificant as well. These cave mansions were guarded by experts of the 2 camps, with more precious caves being guarded by stronger guards. But these guards were not top experts. This was as the cave mansions were equipped with formations. Even the lords of Cloud Realm level could not break the formations and occupy the cave mansions. As such, it was not necessary to dispatch top experts to guard them. Occupy a cave mansion? Bone King, are you kidding? Beast responded in a bear-like voice. All the cave mansions controlled by Pale Moon Marquis are protected by powerful and indestructible formations. Even a lord can't destroy it. How would we occupy it? The other experts quietly nodded their agreement. Chapter 420, Josha Cave Mansion. Chapter 420, Josha Cave Mansion. Don't worry. They wouldn't have assigned an impossible task. The power of the formation is extraordinary, but I have my methods to break it, Bone King laughed. Oh, the experts were surprised. The most indestructible part of the cave mansion is the formation. If it can be broken, those guards aren't a great threat, thought Jen Wushuang. Everyone, don't worry about the formation. I guess you'll have no problems dealing with the cave mansion guards. The most difficult part of this task is to guard it after we occupy it, Bone King said seriously, and then clapped his hands. A woman in a purple robe walked in immediately. Nice to meet you, I'm Lady Red. As an ordinary expert at the pinnacle of the Saint Realm, the lady was humble and respectful to Jen Wushuang and the other experts. Lady Red was sent by high officials and has great attainment in formation. After we occupy the cave mansion, she'll set the formation. That will definitely take some time. While that's in progress, we can expect Pale Moon Marquis to send experts to attack us. We have to fight the experts of Pale Moon Marquis camp to buy time for her. Don't let anyone interfere with her. Once the formation is finished, the cave mansion will be controlled by Drifting Blood Marquis camp. We will then be able to use the formation to stop those experts, Bone King explained as he looked around. The experts understood what Bone King said. The cave mansions were the most coveted objects on the flaming battlefield. All cave mansions were valuable to the two camps. Pale Moon Marquis camp would dispatch experts immediately if they lost a mansion. What they had to do was to hold off the experts until Lady Red finished setting the formation. I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to stop those experts of Pale Moon Marquis, Beast said in a low voice. Indeed. That's why the reward is huge. The cave mansion is also an opportunity. It's up to you to seize it. I've specially invited swordsmen for this task. His realm will be of great help to us, Bone King laughed. Swordsman? Beast glanced at Jen Wushuang. His eyes carried a trace of disdain and a hint of violence. All the experts present were at the top of Stage 3 and were famous in the inner area. Jen Wushuang was merely a newcomer with ordinary battle strength, at about the high level of Stage 3. That was why Beast had not paid him any attention. He was not aware that the Jen Wushuang had condensed the origin mark. Jen Wushuang's battle strength had increased by several times and he had reached the peak of Stage 3. With the assistance of his realm, Jen Wushuang was confident that if he had to fight Beast, it would end in a draw. Beast, don't underestimate Swordsman's realm. Shui Yang and I witnessed it just now. Even I was greatly oppressed by his realm and my strength dropped sharply. His realm will be of immense help for this task, Bone King said. I hope so, Beast curled his lips. Bone King, Jen Wushuang suddenly said, our task is to occupy a cave mansion, but which one? The other experts turned to look at Bone King. Pale Moon Marquis controlled numerous cave mansions, including extremely valuable ones and ordinary ones which were nearly empty. They would naturally pay more attention to the valuable ones. Our target is Josha Cave Mansion, said Bone King. Josha. Jen Wushuang and the other experts were surprised. Pale Moon Marquis camp controlled many cave mansions, including 3 Marquis cave mansions. The 3 Marquis cave mansions were the most valuable and their defenses were unassailable. Occupying those mansions would only be possible for experts of Lord level rather than Stage 3 experts of the Saint Realm like them. Josha Cave Mansion was not a Marquis cave mansion. However, it was very precious and just slightly less important than the 3 Marquis cave mansions. Josha Lord was a famous Cloud Realm expert who had died 1,000 years ago. In terms of strength, he was second only to a Marquis. The cave mansion he had left behind was extremely valuable. It had been discovered less than 10 years ago. That meant that it would still contain hidden treasures or opportunities, which would be of great help to any warrior. Its importance to Pale Moon Marquis was only second to the 3 Marquis cave mansions. Josha Cave Mansion, we're going to occupy the Josha Cave Mansion. The Pale Moon Marquis camp will be enraged if we occupy the Josha Cave Mansion. Josha Cave Mansion is not an ordinary lord's cave mansion. The experts were excited and broke into a discussion among themselves. Jian Wushuang sat at the table, his eyes slightly closed. Josha Lord had been an expert of sword principle. Therefore, there must be several opportunities for warriors of sword principle in his cave mansion. Josha Cave Mansion was quite attractive to him. Everyone, Bone King spoke again in a loud voice. That's all I have to say about the task. It's very difficult and dangerous, however, it's also rewarding. You'll have to weigh its risks against its benefits. Take it or leave it, it's up to you. The experts quieted down and considered their options. The rewards were tempting, but the task was also extremely dangerous. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. I'm in, Shuiyang said. Since Shuiyang is going, I must go too. Life in the inner area is boring now. I need to find some excitement, Beast grinned. The remaining two experts hesitated, but nodded their assent after a moment. If you don't mind, I'll go with you and help you as much as possible, Jian Wushuang said. Haha, swordsman, your realm technique is a powerful weapon for us, Bone King laughed. When should we start? Jian Wushuang asked. Now. A glimmer of anticipation shone in Bone King's eyes. Chapter 421, Breaking Array. Chapter 421, Breaking Array. Within the flaming battlefield were 330 cave mansions, of which most were located in the outer area. This included the discovered cave mansions which belonged to the 6 marquises. And so to the Josha Cave Mansion. There was nothing special about a particular sallow and desolate mountain to the naked eye. However, beneath this mountain was the presence of a cave mansion, and near the mountain was a faint sign of an immaterial halo. The halo shrouded the entire mountain without leaving even an inch of gap. It was the formation outside the Josha Cave Mansion. It was precisely because of this formation that even though many of the experts from Drifting Blood Marquis camp knew that beneath the mountain was a cave mansion which promised many opportunities, they could only admire it from afar. Right at this moment, there was a party of 7 people, including Lady Red, standing abreast in a void not far from the mountain. Bone King, how are you going to break this formation if even Lord-level experts can't do anything about it? Beast grunted. Don't fret. Just wait and see. Bone King laughed mysteriously. Jian Wushuang took a glance at Bone King and said, that formation is extremely powerful. It's absolutely impossible for us to break it by force on our own. The only way is to get someone from inside to collaborate with us and destroy the foundation of the formation. In Jian Wushuang's view, this was the only possibility. He had employed such a method in Nanyang Continent before. At that time, he was bringing people to Ice Nether Valley to kill and turn the place upside down. Right at the start, he got his men to break the array core of the valley's protective array so that the valley could not deploy it. Things were happening in the Josha Cave Mansion beneath the mountain as Jian Wushuang and company waited in secrecy. The cave mansion was incomparably huge, and it extended in all directions. Within it were numerous secret chambers. A bald elder was seated in one of the chambers, and in front of him was an extremely difficult chess composition which he had not found the solution to despite having pondered for many months. Suddenly, the door of the chamber opened, and in walked a black-haired youth. Brother he. The black-haired youth laughed, carrying a pot of wine in his hand. The bald elder raised his head. When he saw the pot of wine in the youth's hand, his eyes sparkled, and he immediately swept the chess composition to one side. Brother he. I came especially to drink with you. The youth sat down in front of the elder and poured some wine for him. Younger brother Yunchong, I don't understand you. With your strength, you're definitely capable of making your way in the inner area, where you'll have many opportunities to attain battle achievements. You don't have to stay here like me, the elder remarked. Experts are a dime a dozen in the inner area. Won't I be courting death by going there? The youth laughed. Not necessarily. Even though it's dangerous in the inner area, you are, for better or worse, a stage 3 expert, which means you should be more than capable of gaining a foothold there. The bald raised his cup and sniffed it after he finished speaking. His eyes began to scorch at once. Good wine indeed. How could I possibly dare to offer it to you if it wasn't good? The youth replied solicitously. Ha ha, the bald elder's smile widened. He began to drink without any more hesitation. However, the moment he raised his head once again, he saw that the facial expression of the youth had turned from a constant warm smile into a hideous look. A wicked killing intent burst forth violently from the latter's eyes. Die. An amazingly fast icy ray of light began to illuminate the secret chamber. At such a close distance, the elder was utterly unable to react. What? Shock and anger began to fill his eyes as his body was thrown backward forcefully. However, when he got on his feet, he immediately felt a sharp pain in his heart. He subconsciously lowered his head to check. What he saw frightened him out of his wits. A gaping hole had been punctured in his chest area. Huge amounts of flesh and blood were streaming out of it, while his heart had also ruptured. You, the elder looked in disbelief at the black-haired youth. The latter had, just a while ago, been that courteous and complaisant, but quickly turned hostile. He finished off the elder with a single stroke. The elder could not even ask why, before his body began to collapse gradually on the floor. The youth stood in the secret chamber and, with a cold and pitiless look, observed the body of the collapsed elder. He subsequently took away the elder's interspatial ring, and after making it recognize him as its owner, he pulled a token out of it. Relying on the token, he found his way to another secret chamber in the cave mansion. It was the location of the array core of the formation near to the cave mansion, while the chamber also had its own formation. What he had just taken from the bald elder was the only token which granted entrance to this secret chamber. After entering this chamber, the youth immediately began to destroy the array core of the formation without any hesitation. In the void outside the cave mansion, Jian Wushuang, Bone King, and their companions waited quietly. All of a sudden, they saw that the immaterial halo which had for long been shrouding the mountain began to quiver frantically. It has begun. Bone King's eyes lit up. Shuiyang, Beast, and others revealed looks of pleasant surprise when they saw the violent movement of the formation. The immaterial halo quickly reached the verge of disintegration. Let's go. It's time for us to get to work. We shall break the formation completely, Bone King said. With the exception of Lady Red, the other 6 experts moved forward at once and projected waves of attacks of every kind toward the formation. The formation, which was already on the brink of disintegration, was sundered by the attacks of the 6 people. Once the formation was broken, Josha Cave Mansion became rather like a naked young woman standing daintily in front of them. Right at this moment, a figure dashed out of the cave mansion and appeared in front of them. This person was none other than the black-haired youth who had just murdered the bald elder and completely destroyed the array core of the formation. Aren't you He Yun Chong? Shuiyang instantly recognized who he was. Bone King, Shuiyang, Beast, the youth greeted them one by one. Ha ha! When I accepted this mission, I already knew that an insider would collaborate with us to break the formation. However, I didn't know who it would be and certainly didn't think it would be you. Bone King laughed in delight. I was originally from Drifting Blood Marquis camp, and was sent as a mole to Pale Moon Marquis very early on. I only exposed myself today for the sake of capturing Josha Cave Mansion. He Yun Chong laughed as well. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang and the others finally understood it all. Okay, let's not waste any more time. Since the formation has been broken, we should get started. A gush of killing intent surged from Bone King's body. Chapter 422, 2 days. Chapter 422, 2 days. As one of the most highly valued cave mansions in Pale Moon Marquis camp, the place was not only protected by a powerful formation externally but also by several experts internally at all times. However, these experts were mostly mediocre, and only 2 of them were any outstanding. One of them was He Yun Chong, while the other was the bald elder He. They were both stage 3 experts. He Yun Chong, of course, turned out to be a mole deployed by Drifting Blood Marquis, while Elder he had just been murdered by the former. Consequently, there remained only a bunch of stage 2 experts. They, too, had detected the changes which had taken place to the formation. What's going on? The formation is actually breaking? It's He Yun Chong. He killed Elder He and has now destroyed the array core of the formation. Damn it. I can't believe He Yunchong is a spy. Quick, send word to the campsite. A commotion kicked off throughout Josha Cave Mansion. These Stage 2 experts, who served under Pale Moon Marquis, would turn pale in shock when the formation was completely broken and Jian Wushuang and company appeared in front of them. I've killed the only Stage 3 expert in here. The rest are just Stage 2s. They carry no threat to us, He Yunchong said. Move. Bone King issued a terse order before transforming himself into a beam of flowing light which shot forth with a terrifying vigor. Jian Wushuang and company followed up without hesitation. Block them. Pale Moon Marquis experts were able to put up a resistance at first. However, they lost their courage after Bone King charged at them and, with a casual slap, turned several of them into smithereens. Run. Fast. Oh gosh. We can't fend them off at all without the formation. Pale Moon Marquis Stage 2 experts began to flee disorderly. Various figures were seen scampering in all directions. Kill. Bone King's killing intent was soaring. Haha. These all count as battle achievements. Beast laughed maniacally. Only Jian Wushuang and Shuiyang did not act. Shuiyang's temperament was laid back, and he had no interest in killing people who were merely Stage 2 experts of the Saint Realm. As for Jian Wushuang, even though he was innately battle-hungry, he never enjoyed slaying the weak. The entire Josha Cave Mansion quietened down after only a short while. Save for a very small handful who fortunately escaped, most of Pale Moon Marquis experts, who had been guarding the cave mansion, were ruthlessly massacred. Under He Yunchong's lead, Jian Wushuang and company arrived in the secret chamber where the array core had been. Lady Red, how long will it take you to fix up a formation? Bone King inquired. Lady Red looked around the place with a heavy face before replying, the floor area of this cave mansion is extremely large. It'll be rather tedious for me to fix up a formation. It should take at least 2 days to complete. 2 days. Bone King frowned slightly. The news of us capturing Josha Cave Mansion will spread very quickly to Pale Moon Marquis camp. That should take a day at most by their usual speed. A fresh group of experts will then come to kill us. Pale Moon Marquis camp valued Josha Cave Mansion greatly. Many of the experts who were guarding it possessed a messaging slip which could send word to the Marquis in a short time. In fact, the camp already received news when Jian Wushuang and company had just started to capture the cave mansion. And knowing Pale Moon Marquis' speed, he was very well able to organize a group of experts to come killing within a day. But, most of the experts of Pale Moon Marquis camp are out and about in the flaming battlefield, and not many are left in the camp. Even if the camp can deploy experts within a day, there shouldn't be too many of them. At most, it will be a small team that comes. We just have to think of a way to fend off such a small team, Bone King noted. Understood. Jian Wushuang and company nodded their heads, albeit their expressions remained somewhat solemn. They all understood that in this mission, capturing Josha Cave Mansion was not the hard part. The real difficulty was in fending off the counteroffensive from Pale Moon Marquis's camp. Only that was the most difficult and dangerous part. Lady Red, you shall go and fix up the formation first. As for the rest, go and have a look around the cave mansion while the Marquis experts are not yet here. Who knows what you might find? After all, people from the Marquis camp need to amass 8,000 battle achievements before they are granted a single trip here. Bone King spoke once more. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang laughed involuntarily. Every cave mansion in the flaming battlefield possessed its own unique opportunities. Furthermore, the cave mansions controlled by the 2 large camps required unique battle achievements as payment for a single visit. For instance, even the most average cave mansions under Drifting Blood Marquis required the expenditure of between 2,000 to 3,000 battle achievements for a single visit. And for a cave mansion on Josha's level under Pale Moon Marquis, 8,000 battle achievements were required for a single visit. This meant that the cave mansion was considered to be among the highest level, and was only secondary to the Marquis' personal cave mansions. Besides, the owner of Josha Cave Mansion, known as Josha Lord, was a sword principal expert. Jian Wushuang was desirous of some of the opportunities which the former had left behind on several sword principles in the cave mansion. Jian Wushuang, Shuiyang, Beast, He Yunchong, and company began to look around the cave mansion without hesitation. He Yunchong, you have been guarding Josha Cave Mansion for a long time. Haven't you looked around the place before? Beast questioned. Although I was guarding the place, I stayed only in the outer layer. The inner layer, where the opportunities are, was off limits. He Yunchong revealed a forced smile before he continued. I know exactly which opportunities there are in this cave mansion, however. Oh! Jian Wushuang shot a glance at He Yunchong. Follow me. The latter walked up front and led the way. As Jian Wushuang and company were capturing Josha Cave Mansion, things were happening far away in Pale Moon Marquis Camp, which was situated at the edge of flaming battlefield. In the middle of a huge tent were 3 thrones, upon which 3 people were seated. These 3 people each had an abnormally terrifying aura. They were way above the level of the Saint Realm, and were apparently 3 Lord-level super beings. However, their expressions were rather hideous at present. Several experts were standing deferentially in front of them. We have just received news that Josha Cave Mansion has been captured by experts from the enemy camp. The leader among the 3 lords was a burly middle-aged man with purple hair. His thunderous voice began to sound within the tent, causing the hearts of the stage 3 experts standing in front of him to shudder involuntarily. Chapter 423, Touched. Chapter 423, Touched. How is that possible? Josha Cave Mansion has actually been captured. There's a brutally powerful formation set up by my camp outside Josha Cave Mansion. It should have been very difficult to break through even if several lords worked together. The experts who were standing respectfully were shocked when they learned about the formation. The burly middle-aged man with purple hair continued. He Yunchong, who was one of the 2 Stage 3 experts guarding Josha Cave Mansion, is a spy sent by Drifting Blood Marquis. It was he who conspired with the enemy experts and helped them to capture the cave mansion. I hereby decree that He Yunchong shall be classified as a top priority assassination target, and that any expert in the camp who is related to him will be thoroughly interrogated. Anyone found to be closely related to him shall be immediately executed. The burly middle-aged man with purple hair resumed speaking after the series of orders were handed down. My camp controls 101 cave mansions, among which Josha Cave Mansion is only secondary in value to the 3 Marquis Cave Mansions. Such an important cave mansion should never be allowed to fall into the hands of Drifting Blood Marquis. Send orders to assemble a group of experts immediately, and for the group to head to Josha Cave Mansion in the shortest time possible. Seize back Josha Cave Mansion while the enemy has yet to gain a firm foothold and fix up a formation. Yes. The Stage 3 experts acknowledged solemnly. By the way, hasn't Deng Hu just set out toward the inner area a while ago? He should be reaching the outer area by now. Send word to him immediately to take a trip to Josha Cave Mansion. The recapture won't be difficult with his assistance. The other 2 lords nodded their heads. They apparently had full confidence in Deng Hu, who the purple-haired man mentioned. After this order was handed down, it took only half a day for a group of experts to be assembled and to set off. Because of the tightness of time, the experts simply teleported using their space travel spells and quickly reached the outer area. Jian Wushuang and company were still looking around inside Josha Cave Mansion. There are 3 spots of opportunities in Josha Cave Mansion. He Yunchong was naturally very familiar with Josha Cave Mansion, having stayed here for so long. These spots can be classified into 2 different types. One is meant for Origin Enlightenment, while the other is for Sword Principle. Sword Principle? Bone King, Shuiyang and several others could not refrain from looking at Jian Wushuang. Including He Yunchong, there were 7 experts present. However, among them, only Jian Wushuang specialized in Sword Principle. Jian Wushuang subconsciously touched his own nose as a result of the attention he was getting. Swordsman, some luck you have. Bone King laughed. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Regarding the 2 spots of opportunities for Origin Enlightenment, Exactly which origins are they meant for? Beast asked. The raging fire origin and the thunderbolt origin, He Yunchong answered. Immediately, odd looks appeared on several faces. Those who had practiced either of these two origins were naturally delighted, whereas those who had never practiced either origin could only laugh bitterly. The opportunity for sword principle is right in that secret chamber. You can go in, sword master, He Yunchong said. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang nodded his head and walked toward the secret chamber. Guys, don't you want to go in and have a look too? He Yunchong looked at Bone, Shuiyang, and company. Never mind. We aren't proficient in sword principle at all. The opportunity for it is useless to us, Beast replied. If it's an origin opportunity, we can try meditating for a while whether or not we're proficient in it. After all, knowing an extra origin may bring some benefit. However, I'm sure that no one here still specializes in sword principle, right? Bone King commented. The others nodded their heads in agreement. Subsequently, they walked toward the spots of opportunities for origin enlightenment. Jian Wushuang stood alone in the middle of the secret chamber, which was so empty and unfurnished that there was not even a stool. The only thing in the room was a giant painting which was hung on the stone wall directly in front of the swordsman. The painting was 3 meters high and 2 meters wide. It almost covered the stone wall completely. The painting displayed the scene of a man practicing his sword under a tree. His posture was that of thrusting his sword out. This sword, Jian Wushuang began to concentrate his attention on the painting. Under his gaze, the man in the painting suddenly began to move. Jian Wushuang saw the man thrust his sword forward viciously. The thrust caused, in the man's surroundings, a whirlwind which carried a relentless essence. It was as if the sword would stop at nothing to kill the enemy. Jian Wushuang was completely smitten by the ingenious and mysterious sword. He stared fixedly at the sword and felt its relentless essence. After a good while, the sword stopped moving and the painting came to a still. Jian Wushuang, however, had already entered the midst of enlightenment. That never say die sword, Jian Wushuang was recalling in his mind the sword he had just seen. The sword was astonishing, and it somewhat touched Jian Wushuang in the bottom of his heart. This touch was from a different sword skill school. It was the heart-killing sword technique, the most powerful sword skill invented by the sword ancestors. Jian Wushuang had memorized every one of its 9 sword movements when he was still in Ancestors' Land. And he mastered its first move early on when he was in Nanyang continent. However, Traceless, as the first move was named, was nothing more than the starting point of heart-killing sword technique. Among the 9 sword movements, it was the least powerful and also the easiest to understand. As far as its power was concerned, Traceless was only about as good as first-grade sword techniques. Because of its mediocre power, people often doubted whether the move was truly invented by the sword ancestors. In reality, however, Jian Wushuang understood that the first move was put in place because the sword ancestors were worried that the sword skill, as a whole, would be too profound and difficult to understand. It was specially crafted to attract more people to practice the subsequent moves. There was no doubt that Traceless was mediocre in power. However, beginning from the second move, the frightening might of the sword technique would start to reveal itself. The second move was definitely near 10 times more powerful than the first. The name of the second move was Desperation. Desperation referred to a tireless essence which was similar to, albeit different in approach from, the essence seen in the painting. This was why Jian Wushuang felt a twitch in his brain when he saw the Never Say Die sword. Never Say Die. Tireless? How could it be like this? After Jian Wushuang closed his eyes, the Lonely Heart sword appeared in his hand. In pace with the movement of his wrist, thrust after thrust of the sword would be exerted. Chapter 424, Desperation. Chapter 424, Desperation. Every thrust of the sword was exerted explosively at the void ahead. The technique was not much different from that of the man depicted in the painting. However, the power and speed of the sword technique rose insanely with every thrust. Furthermore, there gradually emerged the consolidation of a resolve and a tireless essence. When the essence had consolidated to its peak, Jian Wushuang's eyes opened violently, only for a beam of intense light, which was akin to an electric arc, to shoot across the void. Subsequently, the long sword in his hand transformed into a beam of lightning and shot forth as well. Carrying a resolve and a tireless essence, the sword swept across and struck on the void directly ahead. Though the sword clearly did not hit any material object, and instead only struck the air in the secret chamber, it nevertheless caused the spread of an immaterial ripple. Boom! The air emitted a loud roar as if it was about to shatter completely. Desperation. Jian Wushuang sheathed his long sword. In his eyes flickered an intense radiance. What a terrifying move. It has not only a resolve but also a tireless essence. Although it expends an abnormally large amount of spiritual power, its power is truly incredible. Compared to the first move, Traceless, it's stronger by nearly 10 times. It has certainly proven itself to be the strongest sword skill personally invented by the sword ancestors. He felt that Traceless, the first move of heart-killing sword technique, was not powerful enough, and therefore he rarely used it to fight. The second move was completely different, however. My offensive power has increased by nearly 10 times simply by understanding the second move. Jian Wushuang felt pleased inwardly. It should be noted that his strength had spurted when he consolidated the origin mark, which thereby enabled him to compete with Stage 3 peak experts. Now, having understood the second move of heart-killing sword technique, his maximum offensive power had shot up by nearly 10 times. This meant that, in terms of offensive power, he had surpassed the vast majority of Stage 3 peak experts. At least, among the Stage 3 peak experts who had come along, Shuiyang and Beast could surely not compare to him in terms of offensive power. Neither was it clear whether Bone King, who was the strongest among them and was unrivaled at the heaven-defying level and below, could. And this was only regarding offensive power. It should be known that Jian Wushuang also possessed realms. If he used their suppressive abilities, he would remain capable of exerting his full power, whereas Bone King and the others would find their strengths affected and their offensive power greatly diminished. My speed and defensive skills are outstanding, and my self-preservation methods are extremely strong. Among the countless experts of the Saint Realm in Flaming Battlefield, only a handful are my match. My only weakness was that my offensive skills weren't the most powerful. But now, having understood the second move of heart-killing sword technique, this weakness has been offset completely. My overall strength has reached an entirely new level. A bright glint surged in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Previously, by relying on his realms, he gained the confidence to fight against experts on the same level as Beast and Shuiyang. However, the realms could only ensure that he would not be defeated. They did not help him to win outright against such experts. He would have been utterly trounced by enemies on Bone King's level. Now, however, he no longer needed to be afraid of facing Bone King. If they really fought, he could even confidently use his realms to stifle the latter somewhat. I have to thank this painting. After a brief moment of pleasant surprise, he looked at the painting once more. This time, he noticed that at one corner of the painting was a line of tiny words. It turns out that this technique is the most powerful skill invented by Josha Lord. Jian Wushuang gasped silently. Josha Lord was a peak expert in the Cloud Realm and was only inferior to the Marquis. Experts of his level were qualified to invent their own sword skills. The technique in the painting was the most powerful one invented by Josha. Among first-grade sword techniques, it should be one of the most powerful as well. However, because it was a single move, it could not be considered a truly complete sword skill. In any case, I still have to thank Josha Lord. After laughing briefly, he bent his body and bowed toward the painting. Only then did he quietly turn his body and walk out of the secret chamber. He made his way to the main palace of the cave mansion, only to see Bone King there alone. He guessed that Shuiyang, Beast, and the rest were still at the 2 spots of opportunities for origins. So fast. Bone King was surprised to see Jian Wushuang coming over. He subsequently laughed while asking, "How was it? Did you gain anything?" "Indeed." Jian Wushuang nodded his head, laughing. "Based on the look on your face, the gain must have been quite substantial," Bone King remarked with interest. Jian Wushuang did not reply but nodded internally. The gain was indeed huge, to the extent that he felt pleasantly surprised. He would not feel bad even if the ultimate task of this mission could not be completed and the 10,000 battle achievements could not be attained, for his gain was already very substantial. Bone King began to chat idly with Jen Wushuang in the main palace, but suddenly, boom! Several strong auras traveled forcefully toward them. An icy voice accompanied the auras and sounded thunderously in every corner of the cave mansion. What audacity, you'll have to capture Josha Cave Mansion. None of you shall leave here alive. The faces of Jen Wushuang and Bone King turned grave like never before. They have arrived. There was a slight heaviness in Bone King's voice. It has only been half a day. Pale Moon Marquis camp is quick indeed, Jen Wushuang muttered. Swish, 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 swish. Almost immediately, Shui Yang, Beast and Company appeared within the main palace. Lady Red, you shall continue to fix up the formation. Everyone else, follow me out. As soon as Bone King spoke, the party except for Lady Red hurriedly headed toward the exit of the cave mansion, and swiftly reached the upper void outside. As soon as he had stepped out of the cave mansion, Jen Wushuang saw that there were many figures standing erect in the middle of the void ahead. They consisted of men and women, young and old. There were altogether 9 of them, and their auras were all exceptionally strong. Every one of them was a stage 3 peak expert. The leader among them was a blood-haired demonic youth whose demonic eyes could cause one's heart to lurch. Duoshin Marquis. Upon seeing the demonic youth, even Bone King could not help his pupils from constricting. Like Bone King, Duoshin Marquis was one of the experts in Flaming Battlefield who were the closest to the heaven-defying level. His way of doing things was eccentric, and he had given himself the title of Marquis. While he was similar in strength to Bone King, his fear factor was significantly greater than the latter's. Aside from him, the other 8 arrivers were each extremely famous in the inner area and exceptionally powerful. Including Duoshin Marquis, the 9 of them's combined strength was way above that of Jen Wushuang's 7-man party. Chapter 425, A Fierce Battle. Chapter 425, A Fierce Battle. So it's actually you, Bone King. The blood-haired demonic youth, Duoshin Marquis, glanced at Bone King and company. You certainly have some guts to lead your men to capture a place as highly valued within Pale Moon Marquis camp as Josha Cave Mansion. Duoshin Marquis, I'm sure you haven't come to talk nonsense, right? Bone King responded in an indifferent voice. Aren't you pleased to say a few last words before your death? The former mocked. You think you can kill me? The latter was even more disdainful. You shall know right away whether I can. The Marquis did not waste any more breath. Kill him. Swish, swish, swish. Beams of flowing light sped through the air murderously. Leave Duoshin Marquis to me, and be careful while taking care of the others. He Yun Chong, being the weakest, you just have to ensnare one of them. After speaking, Bone King turned toward Jen Wushuang. Swordsman, it's time to see what you're made of. Yes. Jen Wushuang nodded his head, and immediately summoned road to the underworld and tenfold realm. The 2 realms formed into a blood river which surged toward the enemies. The onrushing duo Shin Marquis and company were momentarily stunned. These strange realms are causing me great suppression just by being in their midst. This person is probably the swordsman who came to prominence in the inner area recently, right? I've long heard that his realms are something else, and it does appear that they live up to their repute. Duoshin Marquis's face turned grim. However, it's only his realm techniques which are troubling. His strength is terribly average. Spectre, find an opportunity to act and kill him. Yes. Following behind Duoshin Marquis was a petite woman, veiled in a black robe, who acknowledged softly. They were both clear that Jen Wushuang's realms were a concern which was best taken care of as soon as possible. Kill. A killing intent surged in Bone King's eyes. He was the first to advance murderously at the enemies, while beside him, Shui Yang, Beast, and company quickly followed. Swish, 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 swish. Fast as thunderbolts, these figures quickly traversed the blood river and appeared in front of Pale Moon Marquis experts. Their speeds are considerably faster than ours under the suppression caused by the realms. Duo Shin Marquis' gaze was somber. He would be the first person Bone King came for. Duo Shin Marquis, it's been a long time since we fought. Time to play. Bone King sneered. Who's the scared one? Duo Shin Marquis snorted. A fan-shaped arc light swept forth and a blood-red wicked machete, which held a monstrous power, appeared in his hands. Although it was not first grade, it was certainly among the very best of the second grade. Bone King was indignant and brutal in response. He promptly slapped a palm, which was akin to a majestic mountain, forth. While Bone King and Duo Shin Marquis were exchanging blows, the other experts on both sides quickly did the same. At first, Pale Moon Marquis' party was considerably stronger than Jian Wushuang's squad, and because it had 2 more Stage 3 peak experts than the latter, it should reasonably have had an absolute advantage. However, this advantage had been reduced to an extremely small amount thanks to the suppression from Jian Wushuang's realms. Take Shui Yang for example. His strength was already immense, but because of the realms, he could now easily fight alone against 2 Stage 3 peak experts. This went for Beast as well. Among the others, only He Yunchong was somewhat weaker. But because of the realm's effect, he managed to ensnare a rival Stage 3 peak expert who was unable to break from his grasp. As for Jian Wushuang, everyone had believed that although his realm technique was powerful, his actual strength was average at best, and that he would at most be able to deal with 1 Stage 3 peak expert. Instead, whoosh, 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 Jian Wushuang struck out beam after beam of sword light. Although he seemed to be doing so casually, in reality, every strike contained great power. Behind him, 2 giant sword soul phantoms rose up. With their assistance, every one of his strikes reached the threshold of the peak of Stage 3. His opponent was a green-clothed elder who was also at the peak of Stage 3 in terms of battle strength. However, under Jian Wushuang's unceasing stream of sword light, the elder became helpless like never before. The latter laboriously swung the long staff in his hand and exchanged blows with the former time and again, but came off worse in every exchange. Bastard, who was it that said this swordsman's strength is average even though his realms are strong? The elder whined in his heart. Every one of his strikes reaches the threshold of the peak of Stage 3. Even without these realms, I might not be able to defeat him. And with them, I'm completely not his match. From different sections of the battlefield, Bone King, Shui Yang, Beast, and the rest noticed what was going on, and could not help revealing their joy. Swordsman, good job, Bone King remarked. Haha, seems like I underestimated you, swordsman. Beast laughed brazenly. Previously, when they met at Bone King's cave mansion, he was somewhat derisive of Jian Wushuang, and felt that the latter was only good in realm technique. He completely belittled the latter's actual strength. But now, seeing the latter's fight against an expert from Pale Moon Marquis, he finally understood that Jian Wushuang's importance to this mission was far above his. It was only because of the swordsman's realms that they were able to contend with experts from Pale Moon Marquis camp despite having a severely weaker lineup. Furthermore, Jian Wushuang himself had displayed amazing strength and utterly outclassed a Stage 3 peak expert. Conversely, the expressions of the experts from Pale Moon Marquis camp were rather awful. This swordsman's strength is obviously much stronger than the rumors suggested. It has reached the peak of Stage 3. His realms are a huge problem. Spectre. Duo Shin Marquis called out softly. A silent ghost-like figure drifted forth. It was the petite woman who was veiled beneath a black robe. She had been waiting for an opportunity throughout and had yet to act. However, she finally got moving upon hearing Duo Shin Marquis' words. Jian Wushuang was still fighting against the green-clothed elder. His casual strikes were packed with the battle strength of the peak of Stage 3, and together with the effect of the realms, were causing great misery to the elder. But right at this moment, he felt a shudder in his heart. It was a sense of danger. Killer. He was all too familiar with this feeling. He had been the target of numerous assassination attempts by Bloodfeather Tower in Nanyang Continent, and each time a Bloodfeather Tower killer sneaked up on him, he would have a feeling like the one he was currently having. Chemph. With a grunt, Jian Wushuang abruptly transformed his body. He exerted the first phase of the triple shift. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang's body split open, and at once, a beam of black light shot out from it, which did not spill a single drop of blood. Residual shadow? The petite black-robed woman was astounded on the spot. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,